So it is. Well, good morning again, Celebration Spiritual Center family. How you feeling? How you being? Soul 21 is singing this morning, yes, yes? Lord have mercy. Well, we're going to get right into it because I have some things to share with you all, and I pray that it meets you right where you are and will encourage you this morning. We had a moment of silence, but I also just want to say that to those who may be listening, to those who may be watching, we send our love and our prayers to our brothers and sisters, our Muslim brothers and sisters around the world and in New Zealand. It is our firm belief that all houses of worship must be safe places, must be places that are absent of hate. And we are grateful and thankful for those government officials in New Zealand that are responding appropriately and wonderfully, but we recognize that there are many in mourning, and so we mourn with those that mourn. We cry with those that cry because we recognize that the women, the children, the men that were murdered are our brothers and sisters. So this month we are in our series, The Inside Joke, and the underlying idea behind this series is that there are things that we've been led to believe about life that aren't true. And when we shift our belief around those things, then we're in on the joke, and we can actually live triumphantly and victoriously. We started in week 1 with, okay, I'm not playing. We started last week, we went to childish games, and I talked about that idea from A Course in Miracles, this idea that we can be threatened, and what happens when we believe that we can be threatened, that we then put up our defenses. But A Course in Miracles teaches us in a powerful lesson, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. And so we recognize that as the lesson teaches us is that defensiveness is weakness and defenselessness is strength. And so we're always choosing, we're always at a crossroads between choosing the power of God within us, the power of the Christ, the strength within us, or our perceived human weakness. And when we choose the power of that strength that's within us, if we do like the song, if we rest in God and say amen, we live triumphantly and victoriously. So there's a sermon from Buddha that I love. I first came in contact with this through reading The Infinite Way by Joel Goldsmith, and of course we've done a sermon series on that particular book. But he quotes Buddha in one of the chapters. And Buddha, in this particular sermon, there's a gentleman who is in love with Buddha's teachings. And he's in love with Buddha's teachings so much that he says that he wants to build essentially a Buddhist monastery in his town, in his village. And he's like, we have a lot of money, and the king in my village is awesome, and we love what you're teaching. And so I want to build a monastery so more people can experience your teachings. And so Buddha used that as an opportunity to teach about giving, to teach about charity is the word that's used here. And he says this, hard it is to understand. By giving away our food, we get more strength. By bestowing clothes on others, we gain more beauty. By donating abodes of purity and truth, we acquire great treasures. That's kind of mysterious, right? How can, by giving away food, how can we get strength? How can, by giving others clothes, do we look more beautiful? How can we donate abodes of purity and truth and acquire great treasures? And this is why he was teaching on it, because we don't understand giving. And what I think giving, it's so greatly misunderstood. When I think about how giving is talked about and even practiced so much around the world, many times, first and foremost, giving is and has become associated with pain, right? We think of giving and sacrifice as though they're synonymous things, and they're not. Right? And of course, sacrifice means that I go without, I do without, and at worst, I get on the cross and die for y'all's sins so y'all can have what you want, right? Just me? It's just me? Okay. So giving has been associated with pain and with sacrifice. Now, giving has also been something we have been, many times we have to be convinced or compelled to do. We give, but it's against our will. But, oh, well, they asked, so I'm going to give. Or, they guilted me into giving in some way, shape, or form, right? Giving also happens when tragedy strikes, which is interesting. Many times the most giving we see is when tragedy strikes. So when a hurricane happens, then all of a sudden everybody got money, right? Right? When a hurricane, right, somebody dies, then you can cook a meal for somebody, right? Now all of a sudden you can make a plate of food, right? Tragedy has to happen before it seems, and many times, again, I'm just observing around the world, that it seems that that's when most giving comes in. And there's a reason for that, but we'll get into that. Also, giving has become a litmus test for whether somebody is good or not. And particularly, we judge celebrities. Ain't our money, but we judging what they doing or not doing with their money, and then that determines whether they're a good celebrity or a bad celebrity or a good athlete or a bad athlete, right? And so we judge. And so, in short, our relationship to giving is dysfunctional. Can we all agree that that's true? Just based on what we're looking at right now, our relationship to giving is dysfunctional. Now, interestingly enough, receiving, on the other hand, seems to be a little easier. Generally speaking, we all know what we want. We know what we want to get. We know what we want to receive. We talk about money. We talk about the amount of money that we want to manifest. Probably most people in this space or that's listening, if I asked you, what's the amount of money that you want to make this year? Or what's the amount of money that you're working on that you want to manifest? Or what's that thing that you're looking for right now financially? You could probably give me a number. We can go on and on about the car that we want or the home that we want. We can go on and on about the lover that we want. We can go on and on about the successful entrepreneur we want to be, or how we want our career to look, or how we want our businesses to thrive. We can go on and on about the trips that we want to take and the things that are on our bucket list and the things that we want to do. For the most part, we can articulate what it is that we want to receive. Yes, yes? But Buddha says something interesting, and I want to read it again, what he says. Hard it is to understand. By giving away our food, we get more strength. By bestowing clothing on others, we gain more beauty. By donating abodes of purity and truth, we acquire great treasures. So what is Buddha teaching us? He's teaching us that the things that we desire to receive only come through giving. And so the principle then is, I receive what I give. Let's let that sit for a second. I'm not just talking about finances. This is not a message about finances, actually. I receive what I give. And so, if that is true, and as that is true, it took me to another lesson in A Course in Miracles, lesson 108. Beautiful lesson. It says, giving and receiving are one in truth. Because of what Buddha has taught us here in the Sermon on Charity and understanding the principle, I receive what I give. This is why giving and receiving are one in truth. And the lesson explains it this way. To learn that giving and receiving are the same has special usefulness because it can be tried so easily and seen as true. And when this special case has proved it always works in every circumstance where it is tried, the thought behind it can be generalized to other areas of doubt and double vision. I like that, double vision. And from there, it will extend and finally arrive at the one thought which underlies them all. So when I think about giving and when I talk about giving, one of the things I think that's just important for us to realize, giving is a success principle. Giving is not something noble. Giving is not something good. Giving is not something kind. Giving is not something that we're supposed to do when we have a certain amount of money and become philanthropists. That's nothing about what giving has to do. It's simply a success principle. If you want to live successfully in your life, if you want to have a beneficial life, good in your life, giving must be understood and it must be practiced. And it must be understood from this standpoint that I receive what I give. We're still in 90 Days to Greatness Master Manifestor, and one of the things that we talk about in the very first week, we set a goal, right? We set a goal of the amount of money that we want to manifest through the 12 weeks, and of course, we've as a group, and lots of money has been manifested, and that's wonderful and beautiful. But there are two things that I highlight that are important when we're thinking about the amount that we want to manifest. And this second one, or one of them I want to highlight now because it's absolutely related to where we are. You think about the amount that you want to manifest. $10,000, $100,000, doesn't matter. And then you need to focus on this question: how will I serve? I will receive what I give, right? That's the principle. So if the principle is I will receive what I give, then I actually need to be really focused on how I'm giving more than I'm focused on what I'm receiving. See, that this is a different conversation, right? Because people tell you, think about what you want, visualize it, imagine it, see yourself in it. All of that's true, right? But if giving and receiving are one in truth, if you're not thinking about how you're giving and only thinking about what you're receiving, you've missed part of the equation. Now, this is what's beautiful when we understand how principle works in general, and this is looking at the principle of mental gender and understanding polarity, understanding that there always have to be two things to create the third. Do we know that to be true? Always, right? Now, we know, of course, in the human construct, we recognize that there has to be sperm, egg, creates a third thing, human. Yes, yes? Now, in the same way, in consciousness, whatever it is that we're creating, there have to be two things to create the experience that we want. So if we're just focusing on receiving, if we're just focusing on visualizing, if we're just focusing on get, can you manifest? That's against the law. That's against principle. It doesn't work. Giving and receiving are one in truth. You got to have both to become one and create the thing that you want. And so in all circumstances, there is this one truth. I don't care what it is. Again, this is not about money, but if we look at money and giving, if you look at your career in giving, if you look at all of your relationships in giving, in all circumstances, there is this one truth. I will receive what I give. Now, I hear some of y'all thinking right now, because you're like, Pastor Greg, you don't know. See, in my last relationship, all I did, I gave. I ain't received nothing. Yeah, And my question back to you is, did you give or did you sacrifice? Did you give or were you trying to fill that hole of unworthiness? Now, we do this in relationships. We do this with our finances, right? We do this at work. How many, let's talk about work. We'll get off relationships. Huh? You know you ain't got no business staying at that office as late as you do. And does anybody say thank you? Did it result in more pay? And then what happens, everybody expects you to stay late because that's the precedent you set for how you sacrifice for the organization. Lord have mercy. So we have to be very clear that, again, and this is why I said it in the beginning, when we're talking about giving, what we have believed to be giving 99.9999999% of the time has been sacrifice. It really has, right? So that's the first place we have to get clear about. And it's interesting, I brought this show up in a 4T's class on Thursday night because it's been very fascinating for me, and as a spiritual teacher, I just get to see so much in watching the events unfold. But I'm sure many of you have watched my 600-Pound Life on TLC. Profound program, very profound, because I just see the law working. What's interesting to me is how almost without fail, each person that's chronicled in the episode, and then they take you through a year of their life, one of the traumas that's taken place, there's several, but one of them, generally speaking, they always talk about, I give to everybody else. I think about everybody else, but I just want to make sure everybody else is okay. If everybody else is happy, then I think I'm going to be okay. Meanwhile, they've manifested a 600, 700, 800-pound life and can't get out of bed, can't move, can't function on their own, and are in a place where if they continue much longer, they will no longer be with us. And I highlight that from this perspective of understanding, again, that we misunderstand how we're giving. Now, the other part of this, which is interesting to me, because giving and receiving are one in truth, and I will receive what I give, we're always giving and may not even be aware of what it is. So when I withhold, I'm giving. When I withhold, I'm giving, because I will receive what I give. So then out in the world, you're going to receive withholding. When I am skeptical and suspect, I am giving. When I receive, what I give, I receive. So then that's why people look at you and you talk about your idea. They talk about your little idea. They're skeptical of it. Really? You think you can do that? Really? You have enough money for that? Well, where are you going to get the money from? You can afford that? Maybe that's a little too big for you. Maybe you need to scale it back a little bit. When I do the bare minimum, I am giving. When I look only for my personal benefit, I am giving. Because I will receive what I give, and so then we wonder why that coworker gets on our last nerve because they just do the bare minimum. They just show up and take up space and air, and you do all the work. I know I'm talking to somebody today. All up in your business. When I overwork myself and don't get enough rest or proper nutrition, I am giving. And I will receive what I give. When I go without so that someone else can have, I am giving. And you know, that's a tough one. I think about that particularly as a parent, because it's something that we tend to do and it makes no sense. We get on planes and they tell us something very specific. What do they say? Put that mask on first. But somehow, we've gotten this thing backwards that as parents, as leaders, whatever it may be, that we're supposed to go without first. And so I was thinking about, last Sunday we sang, I am open to receive. I am open to receive all of life's riches. And we were all up and we were just open to receive. Right? Because we like that, right? Right? But would we be as excited if we were singing, I am open to give? Now, what's interesting, we actually do sing that every Sunday, right? Right? What do we sing? I give my love, more love comes rushing back to me. I give my time, more time's available to me. I give my treasure, doors are opening for me. As I give, I receive. It's all coming right back to me. And it's true, it is all coming right back to you. But if we understand that I will receive what I give, what most of us are really singing out here in these streets. I give my doubt, more doubt comes rushing back to me. Right. I give my worry, drama keeps on finding me. As I give, I receive. Yes, it's all rushing, coming right back to me. Right? So we got to be clear. This is beautiful when we understand the principle. And here's the thing. Because life is simply a projection, mirroring back to us what we're thinking, I will receive what I give. If you're looking at your life and there's some things you're receiving currently that don't feel good, check in with yourself and say, wait, what am I giving? And again, not what am I giving in the sense of, there are people that teach, sow a seed and God will bless you. No, we're not talking about finances, right? What are you giving? Again, and this is what I want to go back to. When I withhold, I am giving. When I am skeptical and suspect, I am giving. When I do the bare minimum, I am giving. When I overwork myself and don't get enough rest or proper nutrition, I am giving. And it's interesting because really all of this is about giving to who? Self. And so what's interesting to me, I had a beautiful experience yesterday, but one of the things that's interesting to me and really the heart of what this lesson in A Course in Miracles is teaching us is that one of the greatest gifts that you can ever give is forgiveness. And especially forgiveness of self. And for myself in particular, I spent some time with a self-forgiveness worksheet yesterday. Now, we talk about these worksheets, and, Pastor Yolanda and I say, not do as we say, do as we do. So I'm not going to tell you to use a forgiveness worksheet, and I ain't doing that either, because I recognize I got to move energy just like everybody else on this planet. Pastor Greg ain't special. And so I weeks ago, actually, because I've been talking to Spirit and trying to figure out what was going on with some things, and it was clear. Forgiveness worksheet, self-forgiveness. I was like, okay, let some time go by, let a whole week go by. And then the next week, I was like, okay, I have more time. Did this sound familiar? Right? Okay, I have more time this week, so I'm going to really do it. And I actually printed them out the second week. I didn't even print them out the first week, right? Because I knew I was going to need several. Yes, Lord. And I still didn't do it. But yesterday morning, it was just so present, and I just knew, as I was doing some writing and again talking to Spirit, and it was like, do it now, do it now, do it now. And so I went through the process, and of course, it's a beautiful process. The radical self-forgiveness or radical forgiveness worksheets guide you perfectly through this process of forgiveness. And one of the things that was interesting when I got to number 11, you're asked this question: I release the need to blame myself and to be right, and I am willing to see the perfection in what is just the way it is. And you have 4 boxes: willing, open, skeptical, or unwilling. I want you to hear that again. I release the need to blame myself and to be right, and I am willing to see the perfection in what is just the way it is. Willing, open, skeptical, unwilling. And as I got to that point, I was like, yes, I'm willing. And I began to write about it. And it was interesting to me because what really came to me in a way that I had never fully appreciated before. We say it all the time. Do you want to be right or do you want to be free? Right? We understand that. But what I understood through this situation as I was doing my forgiveness sheet, being right hurts. Being right is painful. I want you to hear this and think about it for a second, right? I will receive what I give. So you're giving this judgmental attitude of I'm right. And in this case, and in most cases, again, you're right about yourself. You're right about your unworthiness. You're right about you need to be penalized for that mistake. You're right about that thing that you did that you still want to hold yourself judge and jury and prisoner in prison about 10 years later. You're right about that, but being right hurts. It's painful. It's like self-mutilation. And why is that true? Again, because we receive what we give. And then this is why we read in the teachings, our elder brother Jesus says, judge not lest you be judged. It was this principle of cause and effect. You can't judge. You can't stand out here and be right and not feel the pain of that coming right back to you. That's cause and effect. That's the principle. It always works that way. Why? Because I receive what I give. And so forgiveness is interesting. That even if we look at the root of the word forgiveness, which goes back to Middle English, and you can find it used in books like Beowulf, forgiven is the word. And it means to give or grant or to forgive. Forgiving is giving. I mean, that's what it really is. When we're talking about forgiveness, we're again talking about this same thing of I will receive what I give. So when you are in unforgiveness, you're given something. Hear me? Y'all hear me? Yes, people are going to be printing out worksheets today. When I'm in unforgiveness, that's what I'm giving. And it's so interesting. We know this, right? It's impossible for you to hold yourself in unforgiveness for something that you may have done or said or didn't do. Or we're human. We make mistakes, right? But you may be holding that and judging yourself and holding unforgiveness. Then that means that no one and no thing can forgive you. No one and no thing. You might be it could be something as small as just a situation where, you're in line for something and you need to get out of the line as quickly as possible, and you ask somebody, can you please, I only have one item. Have you ever had this? I only have one item. Can I? They're like, no. I will receive what I give. See, just in that small moment, you're getting to see your self-judgment. Do you hear me? This is what's happening. We're receiving what we're giving. And so what I know to be true is that forgiveness is one of the greatest gifts that we can give. It is one of the greatest gifts we can give to others, but more importantly, it's the greatest gift we can give to ourselves. Because being right is painful. My life has shown me over and over and over again. I can be right. I won't be free. I can be right, and I can guarantee that I will be in pain. I can be right. Course in Miracles goes further. It talks about this idea that if somebody needs to be in prison, you're the prison guard. You sitting up there in prison with them, literally. In your mind, in consciousness. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to live in prison with nobody, right? Like, think about it for a second. Nobody wants to live in prison. We out here pretending like we're free, but in our minds, we're not. So it's time to seek new employment. It's time to turn in that uniform. And it's time to set ourselves free and set our brothers free. Because we recognize this truth: I will receive what I give. On that, I invite everybody to stand. And there's an affirmation in this lesson if you decide to go back to it and read it in lesson 108. And we're going to affirm it right here and right now. I will receive, what I give. Because giving and receiving are one in truth. I will receive, what I give. Because giving and receiving are one in truth. To my brother, I give peace. To my sister, I give peace. To my brother, I give kindness. To my sister, I give kindness. To my brother, I give love. To my sister, I give love. To myself, I give peace. To myself, I give love. To myself, I give kindness. And together we say amen, ashe. And so it is. And so it is. Thank you, God. Thank you, God.